They will tell you that your thoughts don't matter, that life is random, that fate holds the cards, and that luck is the invisible hand moving the pieces on the board. They will tell you to be realistic, to conform, to obey the gravity of mediocrity and call it safety. But here's the true thing: what you think is what you become. And if you do not take control of your thoughts, something or someone else will. You were not born to drift. You were born to direct. Look around you. Every building, every innovation, every great work of art, every invention that reshaped the world began as a single thought, a flicker of imagination, a spark in the unseen. Edison thought light into reality. Ford imagined the masses moving on wheels when horses still ruled the roads. Carnegie saw towers of steel in a time of brick and fear, and Disney, he closed his eyes and saw a kingdom before it existed. What separated them from the millions who lived and died in silence? They believed their thoughts had power, and they acted on that belief. Let me ask Yug, what are you thinking right now? Is it doubt? Is it fear? Is it a list of all the reasons you'll fail, or is it strength, possibility, vision? Because that thought, whichever it is shaping your next move, and your next move is shaping your life. You are not your conditions. You are not your past. You are not the limitations of your environment or the mistakes of your bloodline. You are your dominant thought. The mind is a garden. What you plant will grow. If you feed it weeds, fear, comparison, anger, it will produce a harvest of pain. But if you plant discipline, faith, courage, imagination, your mind becomes a force no hardship can tame. This is not wishful thinking. This is the operating code of reality. Your outer world is the mirror of your inner one. Control the thought. Control the life. Let that sink in, because it means you are no longer a prisoner of chance. You are a creator, a builder, a sculptor carving destiny with every belief you dare to hold. What you dwell on, you draw toward you, not through magic, but through alignment, through action shaped by belief, through decisions born of certainty. This is why two people can face the same hardship. One breaks, the other builds. The difference is never in the event. It is always in the interpretation. And interpretation is the child of thought. Think strength and you will find strength. Think defeat and your limbs will forget how to rise. So I ask again, what do you allow to live in your mind rent-free? Every second, your thoughts are either feeding your future or draining it. And yet, most people treat their minds like a dumping ground. They absorb the opinions of the masses, the panic of headlines, the bitterness of broken dreamers, and expect clarity. But clarity is not found in noise. It is born in discipline. Discipline to guard your mind like a vault, to question every thought that walks in, to ask, is this mine? Is this empowering? Is this moving me toward the life I am building? Because if it's not, it does not belong. The successful, the truly successful, are not merely harder working. They are more intentional in thought. They rehearse victory before the world sees it. They condition their minds to see setbacks as setups. They meditate, they visualize, they speak in the language of what will be, not what might go wrong. This is not delusion. This is mental alignment. And it's the foundation of power. Napoleon Hill said it best. Whatever the mind can conceive and believe, it can achieve. Conceive will achieve. But the chain only works if each link is strong. And it starts with conception, the power to imagine. We live in a world that worships logic, but logic alone cannot build dreams. Logic will tell you to be safe, to stay in the lane of what's been done before. But imagination, that's the path to greatness. Einstein called it more important than knowledge. Why? Because knowledge is limited to what is. Imagination reveals what can be. So when your thoughts are imprisoned by logic, your life will remain caged in the ordinary. Dare to think bigger. Dare to hold visions that scare you, that make your heart race, your hands sweat, your comfort zone shake. Because that vision, if watered by faith, becomes your reality. But belief is the second step. And belief is not passive. Belief is not chanting affirmations you don't feel. Belief is doing when there is no proof, acting when there is no applause, rising when failure is still fresh. Belief is seeing the invisible and walking toward it like it's already yours. It is the force that turns thought into fuel. And without belief, thought is just vapor. But with it, belief, thought becomes a flame, a fire, a force that bends reality. And belief must be fed daily, hourly, repeated until it becomes reflex. You must feed it with language, with repetition, and yes, with vision. Vision is the compass of thought. Without it, you drift, you react, you chase shiny distractions and call it ambition. But with vision, you become unstoppable. Vision is clarity on fire. It burns through fog. It silences doubt. It gives your thoughts a destination. Do not confuse goals with vision. Goals are steps. Vision is the mountain. It's the summit that pulls you forward when the trail is steep, when the nights are cold, when the applause disappears. Your vision must be so real in your mind that your present circumstances look like lies. You must see it, hear it, smell it, feel it. Speak it aloud until your subconscious accepts it as truth, because the subconscious mind does not filter truth from fiction. It accepts what is repeated. So repeat greatness, repeat abundance, repeat purpose, until your biology matches your destiny. And that leads us to purpose. The fire beneath the vision. Purpose is not a job. It is not a title. It is not something you find in a workshop or borrow from a book. Purpose is the deep knowing that you were made for more, that your life is not a mistake, that your experiences, even the painful ones, were training, not punishment, that your scars are not shameful, they are sacred. Proof you have survived the very storms that were sent to bury you. Purpose is your inner why. And when your thoughts are anchored to that why, no wind can pull you off course. The weak think with reaction, the strong think with intention, and the strongest, they think with purpose. So cultivate your mind like sacred ground. Do not allow weeds of bitterness to take root. Do not tolerate thoughts that belittle your value. Do not confuse humility with invisibility. You are here to rise. You are here to create. You are here to think new thoughts, and with them build a new world. And that world will require more than vision and belief. It will demand discipline. Discipline is the gatekeeper between thought and manifestation. Without discipline, even the most beautiful vision withers in the soil of procrastination. Discipline is the act of honoring your future self with your present actions. It is thinking success, then doing what success requires, even when it's inconvenient, especially when it's inconvenient. Anyone can work when they feel inspired, but champions work when the world is asleep, when the crowd is gone, when doubt whispers louder than faith. Discipline is the ability to choose your thought and then make it real, brick by brick, day by day. And it is in those daily decisions that you cast the votes for who become. You don't become great in one leap. You become great in 1,000 small yeases to your vision and 1,000 news to distraction. And from that discipline flows action, real action, not busywork, not motion, impact. The world does not reward thoughts. It rewards execution. But execution is most potent when your thoughts are aligned with your vision, because action taken without thought is chaos, and thought held without action is fantasy. But when the two meet, when thought becomes action, you unlock power. You become a mover, a force, a presence that cannot be ignored. And when you act with intention, when your thoughts become deeds, the universe responds, not because of luck, but because of law, the law of cause and effect, the law that governs all results. Plant and you shall harvest. Speak and you shall shape. Think and you shall become. This is not abstract. It is practical. It is primal. It is inevitable. And yet, so many never taste its fruit because they do not persist long enough to witness the bloom. They quit in the space between the seed and the sprout. They dig up their dream to see if it's growing. But the most powerful thoughts are those rooted in patience. Patience is the silent faith that what you planted in the darkness will rise in the light. And while you wait, you work. Not idly, not anxiously, but with assurance, because you know the laws don't sleep. The laws don't lie. And what you water will grow. But you must protect your seed from the predators of thought, the critics, the doubters, the voices within and around you that mock your belief. They will tell you to be realistic, to shrink your dream until it fits their comfort. But you were not born to fit in cages built by others' fears. You were born to transcend. And to transcend, you must cultivate the most powerful habit a human can build: gratitude. Not the passive kind. Not a hashtag or a journal entry you forget by noon. I'm talking about fierce gratitude, active gratitude, the kind that transforms your mental chemistry and lifts your vibration out of scarcity into abundance. Because when you are grateful, you tune your thoughts to the frequency of what you have, not what you lack. And that shift, that tiny shift, creates momentum. Gratitude turns every experience, even the painful ones, into a stepping stone. The greats don't resent the struggle. They thank it. They know every delay, every closed door, every betrayal is raw material for greatness, if the thought behind it is empowered. Gratitude doesn't ignore the storm. It sees the storm, stands in it, and says, there is something here for me. I will use this. And that mindset, that relentless hunger to use everything, leads to adaptability, because life will not obey your script. People will betray you. Plans will fall apart. Markets will shift. Seasons will change. But when your thoughts are rooted in adaptability, you become like water. You don't break. You bend, you flow, you adjust. And you do it not from desperation, but from dominion. Because you know this, I am not my job. I am not my title. I am not this moment of loss or this chapter of confusion. I am the thinker. I am the creator. I am the force behind the form. And I can pivot. I can evolve. I can rewrite the story mid-sentence if I must. But I will not quit. I will not surrender my mind to fear just because the road took a turn. Because I know the most adaptable survive. And not only survive, they rise. But rising isn't easy. It requires resilience. Resilience is the muscle built through repetition of hardship. It is the result of 1,000 setbacks faced with the thought, this is not the end. Resilience doesn't deny pain. It transforms it. Abraham Lincoln lost election after election before becoming one of the most revered leaders in history. Walt Disney was fired from a newspaper job for lacking imagination. He went bankrupt more than once, but he kept creating. Oprah Winfrey was told she was unfit for television. She didn't internalize the insult. She transformed it. Because each of them knew, I am not what they say, I am what I believe, I am what I do with what I think. That is resilience. Not just bouncing back, but bouncing forward. Resilience is thought forged in fire, refusing to be reduced. It is looking at the wreckage and saying, watch what I build from this. And to build, truly build, you must become a student again. Never stop learning. Never stop questioning. Never stop expanding your mind beyond the limits of yesterday, because your current level of thinking has built your current life. If you want more, you must think more. The average man stops learning when school ends, but the extraordinary commit to lifelong mental expansion. They read, they listen, they challenge their assumptions, they ask better questions. And the most powerful question of all, what thought is shaping this moment? In every situation, ask yourself, is this thought serving me? Is this thought elevating me? Is this thought aligned with who I am becoming? Because if it's not, it must go. You cannot afford to let unworthy thoughts rent space in your mind. Your thoughts are architects. Every single one is laying a brick, either building your palace or your prison. So choose them like your life depends on it, because it does. Control the thought. Control the life. And what is life if not the sum of what you think, what you feel, what you do again and again and again? There is no destiny. There is only design. And you, with your thoughts, are the designer. You can write tragedy or triumph. You can stay small or expand until the walls of your past shatter. You can echo the noise of the world, or you can speak life into it. But you must choose, because the clock is ticking, and thought, left undirected, will default to fear. But you were not made for fear. You were made for faith. And faith is not just belief in what you see. It is belief before you see. It is belief when the account is empty, when the doors are closed, when the dream feels distant. Faith is the thought that says, I don't know how, but I will. And that thought, when held with conviction, becomes a magnet for miracles. Not because the universe owes you, but because you aligned. Thought, belief, vision, purpose, discipline, action, gratitude, adaptability, resilience, learning, this is the chain, the sacred cycle of creation. But it begins and ends with thought. So ask yourself, what will you think now that you know? What thoughts will you allow to define you? Will you think like a victim or like a visionary? Will you let your past dictate your mind, or let your mind rewrite your future? You are not average. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are becoming. And becoming is not passive. It is intentional. Every second you are sculpting yourself with your dominant thoughts. So sculpt with precision, with power, with purpose. Because when you control the thought, you control the life. Now go. Think boldly. Dream madly. Act relentlessly. And become what you were always meant to be. And in that becoming, There will come a moment, perhaps more than once, where the world tries to pull you back, where your new thoughts collide with your old life, where your upgraded identity threatens the comfort of those still asleep. Understand this, not everyone will celebrate your awakening. When you begin to think higher, speak clearer, walk straighter. You will unsettle those still married to their excuses. You will remind them of the power they gave away. And instead of reclaiming it, they may try to convince you that you are the one who's changed. But change is not betrayal. Stagnation is. You were not meant to think like the crowd. You were meant to lead them. Not with arrogance, not with ego, but with the quiet, unshakable confidence of someone who has seen what is possible and refused to go back to sleep. This is the cost of rising. You must release the need for external approval. Because when your thoughts are aligned with your purpose, your validation is internal. You wake up not to applause, but to alignment. And that alignment, that internal resonance, is more valuable than any crown the world can offer. So stand tall in the storm of opinion. Be unmoved by the waves of judgment. And remember, you do not answer to the noise. You answer to your vision. And your vision is sacred. But vision without energy fades. And your energy, your life force, is a direct reflection of your thoughts. You cannot hold negative, anxious, self-defeating thoughts and expect to feel powerful. Energy is not just physical. It is mental. It is spiritual. It is the invisible momentum that fuels action, attracts opportunity, and radiates confidence. And it begins in the mind. Every morning before the world touches you, touch your thoughts. Before you pick up your phone, pick up your focus. Declare the day before the day declares you. You must choose your thoughts, or they will be chosen for you by algorithms, by advertisers, by people who profit from your distraction. Guard your mornings like your mission depends on it, because it does. In those first moments of wakefulness, your mind is pliable, receptive, open. Fill it with intention, with command. This is not self-help. This is self-mastery. You were never meant to drift. You were meant to direct the current of your consciousness, to steer your soul toward the shores of your choosing. But the world will try to hijack your compass. It will tempt you to think small, to chase shallow desires, to sacrifice purpose for popularity. And you must resist, not with anger, but with clarity. Because once you have tasted vision, you will lose your appetite for distraction. Once you've spoken the language of destiny, the whispers of doubt will sound like a foreign tongue. But that clarity must be fed daily. Clarity does not come from thinking harder. It comes from thinking cleaner. From stripping away the noise, the guilt, the fear, the lies you've inherited from broken systems and wounded people. It comes from silence, from solitude, from daring to sit with yourself long enough to hear the voice underneath the noise. Not the voice of your critics, not the voice of your wounds, the real voice. The one that remembers why you came here. The one that never gave up, even when you did. The one that knows that your life is not an accident and your thoughts are not trivial, because every time you think a thought, you are casting a vote for the future. Not just your own, but the collective. Your elevated thought becomes an elevated conversation. Your elevated conversation becomes an elevated community. Your elevated community becomes an elevated culture. And it all starts within you. This is why mediocrity is contagious. But so is greatness. So is truth. So is light. And when your thoughts are lit with purpose, you become a torch in the dark, not to burn others, but to illuminate the way. Because the ultimate purpose of thought is not isolation. It is contribution. Your best thoughts are not meant to stay locked inside journals or whispered in safe rooms. They are meant to be shared, spoken, lived. Let the world see the results of a liberated mind. Let them feel the frequency of someone who refuses to think like the masses, not to impress, but to awaken, to be the proof that it can be done, to be the evidence that you don't need perfect circumstances, or a perfect past, or perfect genetics. Only powerful thoughts followed by relentless action. So show them. Show them what it looks like to reclaim your mind. Show them what happens when you stop feeding fear and start feeding vision. When you stop waiting for permission and start writing your own definition. When you stop thinking as you were told and start thinking as you were meant. Because when the mind is free, truly free, the soul expands. And when the soul expands, the world around you bends to meet it. Not through magic, Through law. The law that what is dominant in your thoughts becomes dominant in your life. So if you want a different life, start by thinking different thoughts. Not once, not twice. Every day you must become addicted to clarity, addicted to elevation, obsessed with alignment, because the cost of drifting is your destiny, and the reward of mastery is everything. So here you are. You've heard the truth. You've felt it in your bones. Now you must live it, not someday, not when the timing is right, not when the stars align. Now, because now is the only moment that exists. And if you can master your thought in this moment, truly master it, then you have already begun to master your life. So breathe, think, choose, and become. You want to know the difference between a life of regret and a life of power. It's not money. It's not talent. It's not even luck. It's the discipline to direct your thoughts when it matters most. In the silence, in the chaos, in the moments when no one is watching. Because in those moments, you are not just thinking. You are creating. Thought is creation. And what you create in your mind, you will live in your reality. So I ask you now, not gently, but urgently, what are you thinking when you're alone? What are you rehearsing in your mind when the lights are off? Are you feeding the lie that you're not enough, or are you planting the truth that you are unlimited? Are you building prisons with your fear or empires with your faith? Because no one can do it for you. Not your mentor, not your friends, not even the voice in this video, only you. Only you can take the raw, electric power of thought and wield it with conviction. Only you can decide that this, right here, is the moment you rise. Not because the pain is gone, not because the odds are perfect, but because you finally understand your thoughts have been steering your life from beginning. And you can reclaim the wheel. Now, so take it. Take the reins. You don't need to have it all figured out. You just need one decision. I will no longer be a slave to unconscious thought. I will no longer think by default. I will think by design, because you were not created to survive. You were created to lead, to walk through fire and emerge gold, to take the invisible, your thoughts, and make them visible through action, to speak life over your future with such intensity that the universe itself leans in, to stare into the mirror with clarity and conviction and declaring, I know who I am, I know what I will become, and I know exactly how it starts. It starts with thought. It starts with one courageous, deliberate, undeniable thought. This is who I choose to be. Let that thought repeat. Let it echo through your bones. Let it burn away the old narratives, the old wounds, and the old limits. And in the ash, let something greater rise. Not just a better version of you, but a truer one. The one who was buried under years of doubt. The one who remembers what you were really made for. You were made to build. To speak. To lead, to love fiercely, and live fully. You were made to think so powerfully, so clearly, so intentionally, that your life becomes a testament. A living reminder that no matter where you start, you can rewrite the ending. That no matter how far you've drifted, you can come home to yourself through one divine decision to control your thought, to control your life. So rise, visionary. This world does not need more noise. It needs more thinkers, more dreamers, more warriors of the mind who refuse to surrender to mediocrity. Let your thoughts be weapons of light. Let them carve paths where there were none. Let them illuminate what others fear to see. Because when you think with power, you move with power. And when you move with power, the world makes way. Control the thought and the life. And never forget, you become what you think. So think boldly. Think freely. Think like your future depends on it. Because it does.